Hello everyone, today I will show you the most up-to-date tutorial for my CatPin add-on, which helps you speed up the process of preparing models for 3D printing. For this example, we will use a model that I generated this way. We can cover more questions that I regularly receive and look at the most common questions, situations, and problems related to generated models. If your model is made manually, it will be even easier because you can prepare the cut areas better than on generated models. So let's start. How can we cut a model super fast while keeping a good level of quality?
For the add-on installation, you can watch my previous tutorial, or at the end of this tutorial I will add a short part about it, but I will quickly explain the process. You just need to drag the zip file that you received and download it directly into the active Blender window with your model, for example, and press OK. Your add-on will be installed immediately if you are working in Blender 5 or higher. If you are using an older Blender version, you need to install it the normal way. I will show this part at the end. You can use the timecode to jump there right now. After the installation, you will see this interface. You need to press N to open the right panel. There you will see the CatPin tab, click on it and the add-on will open.
Before we start working, we need to create a collection for our connectors. The standard add-on package includes two types of connectors. To create them, you need to find the Create Cutters button right here under my cursor. Click on it and you can see that we have created the cutter pin collection and two types of connectors. I don't know why it is called cutter pin. Maybe it would be better to call it connectors, but it is what it is. So as you can see, the connectors have appeared. Now I will hide the model here. This is their size and this is normal. Next, we can click the eye icon right next to the connectors to hide them. Or we can simply click this checkbox and hide them completely, so they do not disturb our work. Now we can move to the next step.
So we are ready to start with the first tool in easy mode. Easy mode was created so you can quickly test things and make cuts very fast without a big focus on perfect quality and advanced settings. Here we have two tools available, straight cut and curved cut. Using this example, I will show you every setting that is available in easy mode. After selecting straight cut like with other tools, it is important to first check how your camera is looking at the model. The cut must start and finish outside the model. For example, if I start here from the chest and finish here, this will be an incorrect cut because it does not go through the whole model. The add-on will have problems understanding what you want to cut exactly, for example, only the arm or something else. Because of this, the calculation can take much more time. By the way, talking about time, let me make a small note with a tip on how to prepare your model for faster cutting. As you can see, the cut was created through the whole model. We wanted to cut the arm, but we got a cut through the entire model because the first cut setup was incorrect. However, the cut was created. Let's undo this operation with Ctrl Z. In most cases, this is safe. But when we move to draft mode, it is better to work by deleting unnecessary cuts. I will show this later. Now, about optimization, you can select your model, go to modifiers and add a decimate modifier. This modifier allows you to reduce the number of polygons without changing the shape of the model. For this model, I think 0.115 will work well. Enter this value and press Enter. Then wait for the calculation. After that, you can see that we reduced the model from 1.5 million faces to 225,000 faces. This is already more than enough for our work. You can also notice that the model keeps the same shape, does not lose details, and looks almost the same. Before continuing our work, we need to apply this modifier. Another important thing is that you should always check the physical size of your model. Right now, you can see that the model is 1 meter high. This is too large for our work. I think around 30 centimeters will be more than enough. You can use S to scale the model. When you get close to the needed size, hold Shift to make smaller and more precise changes. The next important step is to apply the scale. Press Ctrl A and apply scale. Now, our model is ready for work. Let's return to the straight cut. As I said before, the cut should start and finish outside the model. Then, the add-on will work correctly. As you can see, we created both the cut and the connector. Everything worked perfectly. The straight cut goes through the whole model. The result depends on how your camera is positioned when you create the cut. Before making a cut, we also need to select the part of the model that we want to cut. Right now, it gave us an error because the arm was selected, but we wanted to cut the other arm, and it was not active.
We make it active, choose the angle that works for us, and create the straight cut. Now, we get a cut with a connector, which is exactly what we need. Next, you can notice that our connector currently has a cylinder shape. If you look at the connector shape shown here, we can change it to a trapezoid shape by creating a new cut. Let's make a cut through the torso. Again, I forgot to select the correct part, I select it and repeat the cut. Now, we get a new cut and a new connection on the torso. I will switch to solid view so it is easier to see. After this, we can also create cuts without connectors. Any of the tools can work without creating a connector. This can be useful in some situations. For example, here we can make an additional cut on the arm. We disable the Add Pin checkbox, select Straight Cut, set the camera angle, make the cut, and get a cut without a connector. Let's undo this action and talk about the cut gap. The cut gap depends on what resin you use and what shrinkage your resin or plastic will have after printing. This value is set individually for each case, but I will show you how it works. For example, with our model size of 30 centimeters, we can set 3 millimeters. This is quite a large value, but it will make the effect easier to see. You can see that we got a real gap in the cut. Next, we have a menu that controls the size of our connector. The size we see right now is medium. We can choose a larger cut and a larger connector size and try to make another straight cut. Let's create a cut here and see that it takes the maximum possible space calculated by the add-on. Now, if we undo this and make the smallest connector size, then create a cut in approximately the same place, you will see that the connector size has clearly changed. This is not very important and does not fit most tasks, because most common needs are covered in draft mode, not in easy mode. But easy mode is a good example to show different settings in a more understandable way. Now I will undo all our actions. I will make another cut through the torso. Next, we have the explode button, which allows us to see how our model looks when all parts are separated. I usually set the explode distance to 5 millimeters. You need to select the part of the model that is in the center of all other parts. For example, here, between the arms and the torso. We can select the torso and then press explode. This way, we can see the function working correctly to assemble the model back. We press collapse and the model is put back together. The next option is a checkbox that controls saving the original model. As you can see in your files, the original model file without cuts and with the full model is saved in the backup collection. A new version is also saved after each cut. Let's return to the working version. This is controlled by the Keep Original checkbox. You will always have a backup. Even if a cut does not work correctly, you can redo it even in easy mode. Next, we have the connection settings menu. Here we control the clearance, which means the offset between the connector and the connected part. Let's look at the example of this arm. Right now it is set to 0.3 millimeters. As you can see, there is a small distance between the cylindrical connector shape and the hole. This distance is not equal on all sides. The distance on the sides is smaller than the distance in the length direction. This is controlled by the asymmetrical offset option. If we disable this checkbox, the offset distance will be the same on all sides. The bigger value we set here, the bigger the hole will be. In easy mode, we cannot correctly separate the model from the base. This option is not available here because it requires additional settings. If we try to make a straight cut and separate the legs from the base, we will get an error. The reason is that there is a two-point connection here, and easy mode cannot separate this type of connection. This is all about the straight cut. Now I will show you the curved cut in easy mode. We can remove this model and return to our original model, the first version, and continue working with it. There is a curved cut tool in easy mode. Let's try it on the torso here. The shape is simpler and I think the cut should work. Yes, it worked. We got the connector that we selected and the cut. We cannot edit this in easy mode. For this we have draft mode. We have almost covered all the functionality except export. After we make quick cuts, let me create a few cuts quickly without creating connectors. To show you the export function, I will make some quick cuts. To cancel a cut, you can press escape. We will make quick cuts without pins,
so it will not take much time. I forgot to select the model. Okay, now we have several parts. We need to select all parts that we want to export, and then we can open the export menu. Here we choose the folder where we want to save our files and the format we need. It can be STL for 3D printing or other formats like OBJ and FBX. After pressing export from easy mode, every selected part will be exported to the chosen folder with the name written here. So, before exporting, you can rename each part correctly and get all files at once directly in your folder with the correct names.
Now we are ready to move to draft mode. This mode should cover around 90% or more of all tasks we have when preparing a 3D printing figure, model, character, and so on. The most important thing, first select the model, click on it so it becomes active, and only then select the draft mode. After that, we cannot change the active part while we are in draft mode. To change the active parts, we need to go back to easy mode first. Select the Select tool, click on the part we need, choose the model, and then return to draft mode. Here we can see that we have 3 tools and a 4th option. This 4th option is a separate function. Let's start with this option. When we have an intersection with the base, for example, the model is standing on a base or it touches another part, like a hand touching the hip, with one connection near the shoulder and another connection near the hip, we need this button, separate from base or to connectors. Let's use a simple method for now and separate this model from the base in the easiest way, but not the best way. First, we need to press this button, it will turn red, and the message will appear telling us that we need to make 2 cuts, one after another. We can add pins or remove them, but in this case, we need pins. Here, we choose the connector type. Let's select the trapezoid shape. Next, we can use any of these 3 tools, but now we will choose straight cut to save time.
Again, we set the camera angle so our cut starts and finishes outside the model. This is very important for the initial cut creation, so we can do it like this. After the cut, we can see that we have a cut plane and a connector. If we click on the connector, we can use standard Blender tools to scale it, rotate it, and change its position. Next, we need to make the second cut while this mode is still active. We create the second cut and get 2 cuts in our list. They are shown with separate icons and separate names, showing that these are the first and second parts of the base separation process. To finish the separation from the base, we need to press the Build Draft button. Then we need to wait for some time. Depending on the number of polygons and the complexity of the cut, one cut can take up to 45 seconds. This is normal. The time also depends on your computer performance. As you can see, after build draft, we got the base separated from the model. To better see how it looks inside, we can use the explode function. It is better to select the top part, hold Shift and click it, then press explode. I usually set the distance to 5 mm and this is enough. We can see that the model parts moved apart and now we can see the connectors. Next, let's work with the top part so I can show you the remaining tools. By the way, if you have finished your work, you can press Approve to confirm. After that, a message will appear saying that the full cut history will be removed and you will get all your separate parts that you can continue working with. Press OK if you need this. Next, we select the top part that we want to work with. Go to draft mode again and we can see an empty list with all cuts. Now we can continue working. I also want to show you more features of the straight cut tool. When we edit a cut, we can press G to move the connector S to scale it and R to rotate it to the angle we need. Now, we do not need this cut anymore, so in the list we can, for example, disable it. It will not be used during the build, and this cut will not be created. Or we can delete it completely. This works the same way for all cuts.
Now we are ready to show the second tool, curved cut. We select it in the same way. It depends on the camera position and the angle from which we look at the model. The most important thing is that the cut should start and finish outside the model. Here we can create an arc, for example, by dragging with the left mouse button. We get a curved cut. We should check it visually. If we see that there may be some problems, we can always press the Edit Cut Surface button to edit this cut. This helps us create a smoother surface without sharp transitions.
Also, please pay attention when 2 points are very close to each other. It is better to always move them farther apart.
If you see an error when generating the cut during the build process, check if there are points created too close to each other. Because of the complexity of the surface, sometimes these points can be created automatically, but they can cause problems. We can adjust them by moving them. They will snap to the surface. But always pay attention to the camera view, so you do not accidentally move the back point instead of the front point. You can use Ctrl Z to undo the last action. Also, if you need more points, you can hold Ctrl and click where you want to add a point. A new point will be created there. If you want to create a point but it does not appear, for example here, it means that this area cannot create a point directly. In this case, you need to use the distance before or after this area and move the existing points to create the shape you need. This is normal. This is how the algorithm works. You can see that this point creates a very large transition. We can either fix it by adding more points, or if this area is not important, we can adjust it and make the surface smoother. The goal is to get a smooth transition from one surface area to another. Next, we press Enter to confirm our changes. We can see that the connector does not perfectly match our cut surface, so we need to click on it and scale it to the size we need. Double-clicking the Z-axis allows us to scale it only by height. Then, using G, we can move it so that it goes under the cut from all sides and fully covers the connection area. After that, we can check if it is created correctly by pressing Build Draft. After the build, we can see that we got all the parts we needed. We can click and move them manually to check that everything works correctly. Then, press Ctrl Z and wait. It is very important to wait at this moment. If we do not return to draft mode automatically, we have the Return to Draft button. We press it and the cut is cancelled. The cut stays in the history and is still available for us. We can continue editing it, working with it, or simply keep it for the final result. Next, we can create, for example, a second curved cut. We press Curve Cut again, create the cut and adjust it. Here we can see that the cutter moved away and the connector is facing down. To change this, we have the Swap button. We can press it to change the direction of our connector. After we adjust the connector, we can check only this cut and save time without rebuilding the previous one. To do this, we can disable the previous cut and build only the new cut by pressing Build Draft. As an additional note about the straight cut, I want to show you that when we create it, we can edit its position in edit mode. We can press G and move it up or down as we need. With R, we can rotate it and change its position from different angles. After that, we press Enter again and can continue working with the connector. Then we can check the result. As an additional note about working with curved cut, I also want to show you that during editing, we can select the points we need and move them. Again, try not to place points too close to each other. You can add new points by holding Ctrl and clicking. To remove unnecessary points, select the point and press X. We should also always avoid this type of intersection that can appear on complex surfaces. We need to manually separate these points and create a shape that works correctly for us. After that, we can press Enter again to confirm the shape and check how the cut works with this overlap and this sharp surface transition. As we can see, the cut was created, but it created a very thin surface. During printing, this can cause problems. To fix it, we press Return to Draft and edit this point using Edit Cut Surface. We move it slightly lower. This way, we will get a better and more reliable cut later. Before moving to the demonstration of the new experimental tool, I want to quickly go through the additional buttons. You can enable Skip Problem Cuts. Then all cuts will be created except the ones that have problems. Next, let's talk about working with the cut list. Let's create a few cuts so we can see how it works. Straight cuts and curved cuts have different icons. Each cut can have its own name. You can also see its status, whether it is ready for cutting or not. You can visually disable cuts and remove them from the build process or enable them again. Unnecessary cuts can be deleted directly here. You can also select and go to a cut by clicking on its connector in the viewport. When you finish working with the model and want to return to the normal mode, you have two options.
You can simply switch to easy mode while keeping the full cut list that you already have. You can just switch to easy mode. You will see the already separated parts and the cuts that we may have cancelled before. But if you want to work with a new model, you need to delete the history of this model. You press delete history and the history will be removed. You can also completely remove what you created. If you had the keep original option enabled, you can return the original model, make it active again by clicking on it. Go to the draft mode and continue working with it. Now we can talk about the new tool that was added in this update. This is manual cut. It is currently in experimental mode and can cause errors. If you find any errors, please contact me directly by email or through my Telegram. I will do my best to help you. Let's start the demonstration. This tool has two settings, manual smoothing and editable points. Editable points works only with curved cut and smoothing is for manual cut. In manual cut mode, we can set the camera angle exactly how we need. For example, we want to separate the head from the neck. We can either create the cut by placing points and rotating them to build the shape, or we can work like with a brush, dragging and drawing the shape we need. This is especially useful if you work with a stylus instead of a mouse. You can create exactly the perimeter you need. Pay attention that you should start the next point with some distance from the previous point. Even when you click or add points, keep some distance from the previous point. Also, make sure that you create the cut only on one part of the model. For example, here we want to separate the lower part from the head. If we separate the lower part, we should draw the cut only on the lower part. Moving across like this will be incorrect and can cause an error. We continue drawing our contour, trying not to move into the upper part, build the shape only on the lower part, and finish it either by pressing enter or by clicking on the green square area. Now we get this curved cutting surface. We should always edit our connector, adjust it, and check that everything looks correct. We can also enable edit manual cut and see all the points that were created here. We can use Control to add new points in certain areas if needed, move them, and edit everything the same way as with normal cuts. Also pay attention that several points do not come too close together. Here we can see some kind of surface self-intersection. Maybe this happens because of this area, we move it slightly away. Maybe we need an additional point here, we can edit and adjust this area. This makes it worse. Something like this, everything else looks fine. Press enter again. Then we edit the connector one more time, checking that it intersects the surface correctly from all angles and at a sufficient distance. Now we can test this cut. As we can see, we successfully separated the parts. To check it correctly, it is better to select all objects, select the torso as the active object, and use the explode function. Then the model will move apart and we can see all the details and how this cut was created. After checking, we move everything back. If everything looks good, we can disable this cut and continue working with other cuts. For example, manual cut is very useful for separating parts like an arm along the muscles. Do not try to create too many points, but also avoid creating too few points. The shape should be recreated with good accuracy, but do not overdo it. Every additional point makes the algorithm work harder. If you create something incorrectly, you can press Ctrl Z and it will return you to the previous click or previous stroke. Also, pay attention that you are drawing on one surface and not crossing between different surfaces. For example, here we want to separate the arm from the torso. Do not jump from one surface to another. Keep the cut only on one surface. If you are not happy with the result, use Ctrl Z and create a new sequence of points. Rotate the camera however it is comfortable for you. The active point is always the last point you created. Here we can also click on the green area or press enter. Next, we adjust our connector, position it correctly, check that everything is correct, and test this cut. As we can see, we got a separation into two parts exactly as we wanted. I would like to thank you if you have already purchased the add-on. I really appreciate your support. I truly hope that this add-on helps you in your work and in your hobbies. If you have any problems or find any issues, please contact me. I will do my best to help you and solve the problem. Follow the updates on my social media. I share all important information on my Instagram and Telegram group. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments.